Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking another deep dive into this Miami Hurricanes quarterback situation as it relates to the transfer portal. And this is a conversation that we're having about twice a week at this point. The storylines continue to change. Where we're at right now, Miami sounds like they're continuing to have dialogue with Cam Ward as he hasn't signed with an NFL draft agent yet. So that, in my mind, on the back burner, but still a possibility to have. But I want to focus our attention onto what seems like the next top targets for the Miami Hurricanes as they look to add a quarterback heading into that 2024 year, and that's Taulia Tagovailoa, Reese Poffenbarger from Albany, and I have a conversation about where Miami should be going with this quarterback room. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Miami Hurricane fans. This has been a program that's been a blast to talk about over the last couple of weeks, whether it's flipping in the high school recruiting trail, whether it's getting active in the transfer portal, whether it's this quarterback conversation. You guys have shown a ton of support to the boys. Cannot thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, I'm going to give you guys some of my takes on where Miami should go with this quarterback room. Would love to hear from you guys because there are a bunch of different point of views that make a lot of sense in this situation. Would love to have that conversation with you guys in the comment section. Dill, I want to start with Taulia Tagovailoa, who has officially put his name into the transfer portal. Now he's seeking that waiver for an extra year of eligibility, and I think Miami fans should be really optimistic about potentially getting that waiver. You look at a guy like Cam Rising playing his 7th year, got his waiver approved. Alan Bowman last week from Oklahoma State, also going into his 7th year, gets his waiver approved as well. It's often difficult to project what the NCAA is going to do. They're one of the most inconsistent decision makers that we've seen in the history of the planet. That being said, Dill, if Taulia gets this waiver approved, you've seen a lot of him over the last couple of years. Give us your little take on Taulia Tagovailoa potentially coming to Miami.
I mean, frankly, he's one of the many kind of guys who I think would be a good fit. And frankly,
yes,
he's a good fit for any quarterback in my mind. It looks like they're going to return a very good offensive line, a bunch of skilled wide receivers, and a good defense. So if I'm looking as like one of those Taulia Tagovailoa type quarterback where you've kind of played a whole college career, if you will, and want to try to go out with a bang and win some games, Miami should be a really attractive position or place to be. And frankly, for Taulia, it's like, he's a guy who I don't think we even know what he could possibly be because he's been playing at a team in Maryland where, for the most part, they're outclassed in the games they need to win. The games like Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, all those teams, they're notches below, I'd say, what that team is. And he's had to do a lot for that program. They put a lot on his shoulders. He's thrown a lot of picks and had some turnovers, obviously. But in fairness, he's had to do so much, and he has done a lot for them. I really want to see what he can do in an offense and on a team where he's part of the machine, not the machine, if you will.
100%. That's the first thing I have in my notes is I would be so excited to see a quarterback like Taulia in an offense where his offense is the most talented on the field, right? When you look at his time at Maryland, when you're playing Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State every single year, a lot of those big games, and Taulia looked awesome in those games that didn't include.
He kept them in those games. He kept them in it against Ohio State and Michigan a handful of times in his time.
And I agree. So you're looking at a guy in Taulia who, has thrown for over 11,000 yards, 77 touchdowns. It's hard to find transfer quarterbacks that have that experience and that production. But more importantly, he's a guy that I would love to see him in an offense that has a ton of talent around him, that he's going to get good protection, that he has weapons on the outside. In Miami, it checks those boxes. And obviously the relationship with Tua and Miami, that would make sense from that standpoint. And also from a Miami Hurricanes quarterback room standpoint, getting that perfect bridge quarterback that's played a ton of football. Miami is going to win a lot of football games in 2024 with Taulia at the helm, and you continue to work with Emory and JB. Dill, when I look at Taulia, if that waiver gets approved, Miami missed out on Cam Ward, it sounds like. You have to turn up the heat, and you cannot strike out going out and getting Taulia here.
And frankly, though, you look, Taulia is a good option. I think Jordan McLeod from James Madison should be a good option. My personal favorite might be Jaden DeLora. I think he's awesome. Ooh. He's in almost the exact same position that Taulia is in, where he's played a lot of football, got beat out by a very, very good 50 at Arizona, who just kind of came on the scenes and lit it up. But Jayden de Laura has been a really steady player, again, in kind of similar situations where he's been on teams where they're mostly outclassed, but's been effective, is a good athlete. I think Jayden de Laura is the guy, again, I think they should be taking a look at. I think it's a perfect fit for him where he wants kind of one more year in college to go out with a bang. I think Miami offers him that opportunity.
Yeah, we talked about about a couple days ago, we talked about Jordan McLeod, who is my personal favorite. I think Jordan McLeod would be a phenomenal fit in that Shannon Dawson offense. We talked about Jayden de Laura as well. And then Taulia, there are still some quarterbacks that I think would elevate this roster heading into 2024. Like, just because you miss out on Cam Ward, there's still some guys that are kind of appealing for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Miami's also had another quarterback come onto their radar here. And though that's Reese Poffenbarger from Albany, buzzed his film earlier this morning and late last night. This is my take on him. In 2023, threw for over 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 58% completion percentage. Solid FCS quarterback. My take on Reese is I would rather pour my resources into a guy like Ja'Cory Brown and Emory Williams during spring camp as opposed to bringing a guy like Reese. Because I look at Reese and the conversations, remember when Cam Ward was coming out of the FCS level 2 years ago and he committed to Washington State, the conversation on him was there is so much upside to Cam Ward's game. You can see the arm talent. He's immediately one of the more talented Power 5 quarterbacks once he steps on campus at a Power 5 school. You're not saying the same thing for Reese. He's listed at 6 foot. He looks like he's 5'10". He's a solid athlete, but not a phenomenal athlete. The arm attack in the intermediate field is solid, but not special. I look at Reese and I say, okay, you bring him in. I probably would rather have JB anyways. If you'd rather have JB, just keep him in camp, pour your resources into developing him during spring practice. Let him get all of the reps in Emory Williams and see what he can become in spring practice as opposed to settling for a quarterback that, in my mind, there's some things to be excited about. I don't know if he elevates this Miami quarterback room to much of an extent here.
Well, that's the problem. Like, they probably don't really need another developmental quarterback or a guy who doesn't kind of have the potential to come right in and be a productive starter. Because that's really, for me, what you're looking for, in my mind, is to get a guy like kind of in their junior, senior year type who played a lot of football, started, and have proven something at that kind of Power 5 level. Because that's really, I think that's the only value that a transfer portal quarterback can add to this Miami Hurricanes team at this point. So, again, to add a guy like Reese Poffenbarger is not really, I mean, obviously hasn't played at the Power 5 level and isn't particularly old. I just don't see what it does. What does it do to move?
I 100% agree. I see Reese as a developmental quarterback. You got two of those already in Ja'Cory Brown and Emory Williams. You don't need to add a third. The whole reason Miami's going to the transfer portal is to add a guy that you feel extremely comfortable about, raising the floor of this quarterback room heading into 2024, winning a lot of games in 2024. Guys like Cam Ward, Taulia, Jordan McLeod, Jayden de Laura. There's a couple other names. A guy like Chandler Morris from TCU, I think, would also do a very similar role. I see Reese as just a third developmental quarterback. You don't need that. I'd rather have JB and Emory get a ton of reps in spring practice. And I guess that's the next pivot point is, okay, if Miami doesn't grab a guy like Taulia or a guy like Cam Ward or a guy like Jordan McLeod, my personal opinion on this was rock with JB and Emory Williams in spring camp, see what you get from them, pouring all your resources into their development. And then after spring practice, if you see not enough from those two quarterbacks and say, hey, we still need to address this quarterback room, it's not ideal to bring in a quarterback after spring. You certainly want to get one heading into spring practice, but you're going to see some top quarterbacks hit the portal after spring practice after they lose quarterback battles in spring ball. That's probably where I would go next as opposed to settling. This seems like a settling move to bring in an FCS quarterback like Reese that I just don't know elevates this Miami Hurricanes quarterback room to any significant extent here.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind that. Honestly, I do still think they're going to land their quarterback. Like, I think that would be what I would do, just head in and see, okay, Brown or battle it out with the two you have kind of thing. And that would be okay, obviously. But I think, honestly, everyone's just kind of waiting for the Cam Ward domino to fall, and whatever shakes out with him, I think Miami kind of will have a kind of their pick of guys. Because at this point, most big teams of the Miami ilk have gotten their guy or have gotten their portal quarterback. Ohio State's gotten their guy. USC looks like they found their guy in Miller Moss. I mean, you just FSU obviously has it. So to me, there's not that many more options for guys like Jayden Delore and some of those other guys you mentioned to hit. And if Miami wants him, I think they're going to get him at this point. It's just
I do agree with that. I think that's a really good point. You combine Miami's resources, what they bring to the table in 2024 in terms of what the offense is around the quarterback spot. I think this is the most attractive destination for the remaining quarterbacks. So you feel pretty good if Mario wants to go at a quarterback. You feel pretty good that they could make that happen.
Personally, I think that's where I would really want to lean. And again, I think it's okay to have Williams and Brown or Ja'Carri Brown battle it out. But at this, I think for given how good the team is around them, I think you want a guy who at least is it won't be like the quarterback's problem. That's why you're losing a bunch of games.
We've said this before. Like this team with us, if they get this quarterback position figured out, like this team can win a ton of football games in 2024. It's one of the more talented teams in the ACC. I'm holding out hope on JB. I really do think you saw it. I think it's important for Miami fans to remember, like he redshirted that year in 2023, was working with the scout team most of the season, gets 15 bowl practices, shows some really good things, makes some high-level throws. The ceiling for a guy like Ja'Carri Brown is extremely high. I'm kind of excited to see what he would look like being kind of that quarterback one heading into spring ball and then evaluating what you saw from him during those 15 practices and those meetings. But I'm with you. I think Miami still
want to make him beat out a Jayden Delore or Chandler Morris, somebody who kind of proved it. Because again, I mean, there's a reason he didn't come in or hasn't been the guy yet at Miami, frankly. And it's not like the quarterback play has been unbelievable. Obviously very young, but at the end of the day, the team's too good to go in with that much unprovenness at the quarterback spot. If Miami was still in like their building stage and it was like, oh, well, we'd be lucky to win 6 games anyway. We're going to play with a bunch of freshmen. That's just not where Miami is right now. This is a very good team. They were a very good team last year. The quarterback play obviously held them back to a large extent. I want somebody who you can kind of depend on. If Ja'Carri Brown beats him out, all the better. Like that might be the optimal standpoint is you want Ja'Carri Brown to start, but you want to put a floor under what you're going to have.
I'll end this with this. Top 3 quarterback additions for you in a perfect world for the Miami Hurricanes.
Cam Ward 1, Jayden Delore 2, Jordan McLeod 3. I think Jayden Delore is awesome.
I go obviously Cam Ward, but I'm ready to let that ship sail. Like if he wants to go to the NFL, let him go to the NFL. You can't let him hold this program hostage. But okay, I would take Cam Ward 100%. My next would be Taulia T2. I think he is a guy that has played so much football. I'm extremely excited about the perspective and the what he looks like with an offense that's extremely talented and not kind of outgunned by the opposing defense. And then Jordan McLeod, man, from JMU, that dude's a winner. He can extend plays. He has a very good arm. He's probably my 3. I do like Jayden Delore too. There are still good quarterbacks available in the portal. And I'm very surprised that Miami is kind of turning their attention to a guy. And this is not me trying to knock this kid from Albany, Reese Poffenbarger. Like there are some good things on his film. I just don't see it. Like you see it from a guy like Jordan McLeod or Taulia T. So that's our take on the Miami Hurricane quarterback situation. Would love to hear from you guys. Again, the Cane fans, you guys continue to show a ton of love to the boys, a program we love talking about. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.